this session calling Selling Digital Products. So if you didn't want to learn about that, head on out. The first thing I wanted to start out with, because it's a Drupal presentation, is a picture of my cat. She's a lovely cat, and she likes to have dreams and interesting conversations with me whenever I'm bored. And so, my name is Josh Miller. I am a technical communicator at Commerce Guys, so my job is to actually try to make things easier for you guys to understand. So, feedback for me is very helpful because I'd like to try to make this easy to understand, fun to learn, and very useful all at the same time. So today we're going to be talking about three different things. We're going to be talking about clients, one particular client who's got this crazy idea about selling a digital product. And those digital products can range in lots of ways, and we're going to get over those a little bit. We're going to talk about this idea that he has, this idea of selling the digital product. And then we're going to talk about you guys, the Drupal heroes. The Drupal heroes are going to take one look at this mess that the client has come to him of an idea, and they're going to say, hey, that's the digital e-commerce ecosystem that Josh talked about in Asheville. So what is digital commerce? Digital commerce is what everybody thinks it is. You're buying MP3s, you're buying PDFs, you're buying something that's digital. And that's the easiest way to think about it. That's the easiest way to talk about digital commerce. But it is unfortunately not the only way, nor is it the most popular way of selling digital things online. You also have premium content, which this time last year had lots of conversations at Drupal Camp Atlanta about how do you sell access to particular blog posts, or how do you sell access to a particular part of your site? How do you sell access? Lots of questions about that. Something we do at Commerce Guys is we sell support tickets. How do you sell support tickets? How do you sell something that you're giving a company? It's an interesting idea because it's not a product. You don't put a SKU to this. And probably the biggest thing that's online right now that everybody wants as a business is a SaaS product. Also something we've done at Commerce Guys recently is we've launched platform.sh, which is a hosting product that renews on a monthly basis that you can purchase, and we charge you, and it's all run through Drupal Commerce. And this is actually why we built the digital commerce ecosystem that I'm going to be talking about. So there's lots of digital commerce, but this client's crazy. I mean, he's really crazy because he's saying, I really kind of just want to sell digital things one time and recurring. So he just took one big fat monkey wrench and threw it into this idea of, okay, well, I can sell one digital thing easily. I can come up with a set of rules that Andy G5000 showed me how to do, and I can use this open source system that I've been learning about called Drupal, and I can do this. But then they want to do it month to month. So the Drupal hero is thinking, listening to the client, talking about various requirements, and he's like, oh, you know what? I kind of remember this thing I did in Asheville. What was it? It had something to do with alcohol. It had something to do with people. It was the Drupal Camp Asheville. And at Drupal Camp Asheville, we learned about how the Doors are selling digital files using Drupal Commerce, and how Plains TV is selling on-demand video using Drupal Commerce, and how Commerce Platform is selling a SaaS product using Drupal Commerce. So how are all these different websites using Drupal Commerce to sell these crazy requirements? Because when you sell digital, you need a lot of things to make this happen. You need to be able to track the usage. This is called metered billing. For example, using one of the sites that I just put up there, if you're on platform.sh and you need 5 people to access your hosting environment, we're going to charge you a little bit more for that. We need to be able to track how many users you have and be able to charge at the end of the month what happens to that number of users. You need to be able to give and revoke access. You actually have something, a product that's available on your website, a service that you're allowing the user to use. You have something that is digital that you are selling to this user, and you need to be able to revoke access to that if the payment doesn't go through, if the recurring payment doesn't go through specifically. you have these things called billing cycles. Think of your cell phone for a second. It's usually maybe in the middle of the month, end of the month. Maybe you've paid for the month before or the month after. And you got to think about how are you going to start selling these services in a way that you can bill it using Drupal Commerce. So one of the examples is a prepay scenario. If you pay for the month ahead, you're actually paying now, it gets taken out of your account, and you're actually getting access for the next month. As a provider, that kind of scares me a little bit because I don't know if my service is going to be available for the next month. So I actually would want post-pay. Post-pay is, we'll give you all the service we can possibly manage, and at the end of the month, we're going to charge you. And that's what platform.sh uses too. We use post-pay. But what happens when a customer decides they want to, a customer of yours decides they want to just hightail it at the end of the month, or at the middle of the month, or in the first 2 days of the contract that you have a recurring billing cycle for? You need to be able to prorate that. You need to only charge them for the 2 days that they've been there. So this whole list of requirements is what the client, this crazy guy, is like, I don't think anything can do this. This sounds like a very expensive idea. And usually, and most often, clients don't come to you with this list of requirements. They come to you with, I want to do what Etsy did. Or I have this thing that I want to host, and I don't really know how it's going to happen, but I know you're smart and you can take care of this for me. So enter the Drupal hero. Enter everything that's open source and awesome about Drupal. And we have this thing called Commerce License. He's coming to the rescue. And Commerce License does something really interesting. In Drupal Commerce, you have a page or a node, like a catalog page, for example, and you put a product on that. And the standard e-commerce way is you click Add to Cart, and you get a line item. These are the things that Andy G was talking about with his pricing rules and getting prices and checking out. Orders have line items. And then you have your user. Now, if it's a standard e-commerce, a physical e-commerce site, at this point you would ship that product, and that the end of the relationship would end there. They don't have to access it. You don't have to revoke it, and you don't have to rebuild it. But when you talk about digital commerce, you actually have to manage this relationship. And Commerce License, when you install it, allows you to give the user access to the product. And that's all it really is doing. Now, the reason I'm using these kind of cutesy graphics is because it's a very abstract idea, and I'd rather kind of introduce you slowly into this idea, because we're going to talk a little bit more deeply once we get into the demo, what's happening. So Commerce License provides a framework for selling access to local or remote resources. That's what it comes down to. You can go to drupal.org/project/commerce_license. If you install it, you can sell things. Things is kind of relative because you're not really selling anything. You're selling roles, for example. You could sell, you could create a product on your site where when they check out, they get a role added to their user. And then it's up to you as a developer to set up the permissions so that that role gets more access than some other role. But Commerce License itself doesn't handle 3/4 of the bullet points that I was talking about. And that's the whole point of an ecosystem. It's not to have one massive module that does everything. It's to have an API that's flexible and let other people solve that problem in very small increments. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a whole ecosystem of modules that works on Commerce License to handle all of those situations. And I'm going to demo in a little bit Commerce File, because it's the easiest to demo. It should work pretty well. So we're talking about billing cycles. That's something I'd mentioned earlier. We're talking about selling downloadables. That's Commerce File. We're talking about Commerce License Node. Think of like a newspaper classified ads where somebody actually pays you to produce content that gets put up somewhere. That would be Commerce License Node. We have Commerce License Role, which allows you, again, to sell access. And Commerce License Billing, which is quite an amazing feat. So the first thing we're going to talk about really quickly is the downloadables and how this works, because this does work right now on Drupal Commerce, and it's worked for a while. The 2X version was completely rewritten to work with Commerce License Billing. And the reason that is so you can do recurring billing, and you can use license to do remote access. The file doesn't have to be living on your site. It can be living anywhere, and you can set it up to be downloadable or streamable. And it allows you to track and revoke based on number of downloads, the duration of availability, and a few other variables. The next piece of the puzzle is the Commerce License Node module. It allows you to sell node creation, which I believe there's a YouTube video that I did about 2 years ago that shows you how to sell node creation, and it took like 4 rules and it's about 10 minutes. But this allows you to use the commerce licensing capability, which allows you again to recur billing to sell node creation, but also do metered billing, the ability to create as many nodes as you would like. The one thing, and it's a caveat that's on the module page as well, it says it's not recommended for single node access, and there's a link in the project that shows you how to do that just using rules. So think classified acts, that kind of thing. Now this is kind of an API on top of an API, which is a very Drupal-y way of doing things. We have commerce license, right, which allows you to give or revoke access to digital things. And then you have commerce license billing, which allows you to do this on a billing cycle. Okay, so it allows you to do prepaid, postpaid, prorated, plan-based, and metered types of selling content. So card on file abstracts that, and there's, I think at last count, 5 or 6 payment gateways that support card on file. So you have a lot of options on how you would do card on file, how you would do recurring payments, how a client would save a credit card on your website. But when you take payments on a recurring basis, there's a payment denied possibility that you want to be prepared for. And this is something clients almost never think of, because they just assume everyone's credit card is just going to always be there, and that's just a nice way of thinking about things. But the problem is they do get denied. Sometimes they change a credit card, they lose their wallet, that kind of thing. So in that case, you use commerce dunning, which allows you to set up rules where it can notify the customer using message, which allows you to abstract how you would notify the customer. You could even set it up, I don't know, say to text your customer when something gets denied. So commerce dunning is a very nicely abstracted way of dealing with payment denied problems, and it's required for commerce license billing to have advanced queue. The advanced queue module will kind of take you to the next level. You're not just relying on cron to run those recurring cycles. It gives you the ability to run them immediately, which is useful because if your client checks out and wants to download a high resolution photo that they just purchased, you don't want them to have to wait on cron to run to get access to that. So advanced queue can allow you to actually run the cron type tasks immediately or on a scheduled basis. Okay, so another piece to the puzzle is the being able to sell content or site access. This is commerce license role. This is what I was talking about earlier, where you have a role that you use with permissions to change the way the site works. I think the best way to think of this is like LinkedIn, okay? LinkedIn, it's a free open social network, but if you pay a little bit of money, we'll make sure you are talking to the right people, the right talent. If you pay even more money, you can message these amazing people. So that's kind of the idea behind commerce license role. You would set up a Drupal site, and then you start using roles and permissions, giving people access that they're paying for. Or I guess it would be kind of funny to do the reverse and just, if you pay me money, I won't let you do things. The sky is the limit because it's just an API. Literally, all it does is it sells user roles, and like most of these pieces, it actually works with licensed billing, but it's not required. You can sell roles one a pop, and you don't have to recur any kind of cost. So maybe you just want to sell a role for a year and then revoke access. You could do that without licensed billing. Okay, so now the big test of whether or not the internet is actually still functioning. This is a demo site that I created for DrupalCon Austin. And there's it's 2 hours. They cut it down, it's 2 hours. And we go through and show you how to add commerce to an existing site and sell various things, including billing, digital products and physical products and events and so forth. So when you are on this website, included in the DrupalCon presentation that I did is the entire export of this site, so you could actually do this at home when you're watching the video. So first you got to log in, and by default it is just simply admin. Once you've logged in, this is just a standard site, okay? So there's no commerce installed. All it is just a site. I'll click around real quick just to show you what's going on with it. It's a listing of all the Drupal books that I can find online quickly. And you can go and click on a particular Drupal book and see all the content and the author information and so forth. So this is just a blank book catalog site. And they said they wanted to start selling PDFs. So to do that, you get the commerce license module, the commerce license billing, and a few of the requirements, and you install it. So to get commerce going, we're going to have to turn on everything. And what I think is cool is you can do this demo in just about 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes you can actually be selling digital stuff, which on an existing site can be a very big deal for clients, for your clients, and a very big deal for you guys, because you can charge an arm and a leg and it still should just come together pretty quickly. Or at least it'll allow you to focus on the really small pieces, which sometimes are the hardest to get right. Okay, so that's commerce. We're just going to install that real quick. So while that's loading, does anybody have questions so far? Because I've run through the commerce license stuff pretty fast. No questions? Any questions?
Can you say again what the demo video is called? Or how would I find the
Yes, it was called Commerce by Example at DrupalCon Austin.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's really impossible to see anything on the screen from 2 rows back. I don't know if there's a better resolution, or maybe just full screen it on the side.
We will go as small as I dare. See if that works better. Is that easier?
You probably have to zoom, I guess, if you actually
We will zoom in. Okay, so we have commerce is installed. The next thing that you're going to need to install is commerce license. Now, if I just installed commerce license, you wouldn't see anything because, well, you would see a menu item. It would be added, and you could do nothing with it. Since it's an API, it allows you to install things like commerce file. And I'm going to, we'll leave it at that. Okay, so those two things should allow us to sell digital content, including the entity bundle plugin, views bulk operations to make commerce file work. Okay, so when you've installed commerce on any site, there's going to be a menu item that gets added called store. And one of the things that you can do when you've installed commerce licensing is to go through and actually change the license settings. Now, the license settings will change based on what kinds of licensing type modules you have installed. So file would allow you, of course, to sell files. License role would allow you to sell roles, and you would see a list of roles here that are licensable. So you go to product types, you add that, and you click save. And then once you've done that, you can go into the file tab and actually set one of the product types to have license settings. So you do that. Now when you click this and click save, it's going to add a couple fields to this particular product type. Didn't take very long. And the product types are here under the store menu. You can go into products, you click on product types. And we just have one, so I'm going to go ahead and click manage fields. And so what it's added is a license type and a license duration and a file field. Now this file field could be multiple file fields. It doesn't need to be just one, but this is just kind of the default that it's giving you. So you could offer a PDF, an ebook, an EPUB, an MP3, all of the above to one product. So the next step is to go ahead and create a product. So you do that very quickly by just going to store products, add a product. Now when we're adding a product, I've only got one product type on here because I just installed Drupal Commerce. So I know this is going to be a file product, but you could have multiple types of products, and this could just be one kind. So the particular product that I want to add is for the definitive guide to Drupal. We're going to add a PDF to it. Hopefully we will have a lot of autocomplete here. I'm only going to charge $5 for this sucker. Click active. License duration, I'm going to say unlimited, because when I buy something digitally, I prefer to be able to go back and download it. But it does support various metered abilities, and of course there's APIs, hooks, for you to create your own kinds of metered capabilities. And then of course you need a file. So I'm just going to pick anything. Let's see here, we'll go to the desktop, see if I can find a PDF somewhere. There we go. My ticket to see a particular movie. Okay, we'll save the product. So now that we have a product, you can technically just go ahead and check out with this product, but you need to be able to see on any Drupal Commerce site, you need to be able to see the product. And to see the product, you need to change the way the nodes work, and you need to connect that product to the nodes. So there's a particular kind of content type that I want to add this to called a book, because this client already has a book catalog. So to connect products to the book, we just need to add a product reference field. And that comes out of the box with Drupal Commerce. So you call that product reference, and we'll just call it book download. Okay. And a select list is fine for us for now, but I recommend the inline entity form so that you can actually add a product in line with that. Clients are going to love that when they're editing the node. They don't have to think about it as a separate entity. They're just going to see a SKU and a price, perhaps an add more button, that kind of thing. Click Save Fields, Render Fields. I'm not going to check any of the defaults because if you don't, it just defaults to everything. And then finally, we will go into the content, and we're going to add the product to this particular node. Now, you will see the field is down here at the very bottom, and of course there's only one product that we can check. Once I click Save here, technically if we were using just standard Drupal, the ability to view this node would just inject all of these fields and you would see an Add to Cart button. The problem is, well, not really even a problem, the more likely scenario for all of us is we're using something like panels, or we're using something like Display Suite, and you have to know where these fields are and you have to add them to your interface. Luckily for us, panels works really well with Commerce, and it also gives us this great responsive ability. Like I'm zoomed in like crazy here and it didn't look like it was that broken. So to do this, I'm going to add some content. I want to add an Add to Cart form underneath the image. That's basically it. So I'm going to go under Node, and I'm going to add first the product reference field, which will give us the Add to Cart button. What did I call it? It was download, book download. Okay. So this field has a formatter called Add to Cart form, and there's tons of documentation on this for Drupal. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the label, hide the title. It's just going to look like a button. We're going to click Finish because we don't have anything but a file for you to download. Finally, why would we want anybody to buy this without seeing a price? So you need to add a price field, and that's an injected field over here, product price. Click Finish. We're going to move the price above it to add a class. I really like the combination of Panels and Bootstrap, because it allows, Panels gives you lots of access to CSS classes, and Bootstrap is like designed for adding classes to things, so they work really well together. Now if we update and save, you will see that my price has, and this, because I like the way things look, I'm going to zoom out a bit, my picture, the price, and an Add to Cart button. Now I wasn't actually keeping track of the time, but I'm guessing that was right around 10 minutes. And I'm now buying a PDF through this site that did not have Commerce before. Click Checkout, and you can keep checking out and that kind of thing. So that's the demo, quickly. Any other questions while I'm checking out?
PDF under that?
Yes. Okay, so before I click next here, I want to modify one more thing, and that's a feature that comes with license billing, which is a new pane, which is disabled by default. On the Checkout Complete, you can move your license information, which for Commerce File will give you a link to that file, but also under your My Account page, you will see a link to that as well. So I'm going to put both of these up there because I'm not really sure which is which. We'll just click Save. That's what happens. We'll go back through Checkout real quick. Something the developer apparently didn't think of is adding a cart block somewhere, but it's easy to find. It's something you could add pretty quickly. Click Continue. I like that I'm getting an ebook for $5. It's already remembered all of my account information, and Ryan's example payment's already filled in a credit card number that'll work. Unable to send an email, of course, because it's a dev environment. And I now have access to the PDF right there in the checkout. So, any other questions?
You said that's a license information.
This is licensing information, so for Commerce File, it's designed to give you a link to a file. If it were license billing, it might tell you when your next payment will happen, or if it's already happened. The prorating, metered billing, that kind of information all shows up in this pane as well.
So that basically the Commerce File sees that you've been authenticated as a user that's logged in, that has access to this file, and it'll allow you to download that.
Correct, and it will work for Anonymous as well.
Gotcha.
But if Anonymous goes off that page, they won't have access to it until they claim their account from the email that would have sent if it weren't a dev environment. If you go into your account once you've logged in and you're a frequent user and you want to download this again, as long as that duration is happening, which for us is unlimited, you'll have access to all of your files here. And this is a view, and those are entities that we're dealing with, so you could technically add an image here from the product using relationships. All of this is configurable without having to do a lot of code. Yeah.
So that downloadable file in the checkout page, that wasn't in version 1, right?
That wasn't in version.
In Commerce License, the thing that you just showed us.
I'm not sure how Commerce License or how Commerce File 1x handled the link. I think it was in the checkout, but I'm not 100%.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool that it's just kind of a couple clicks and you've got a file that you can download. Now, one easy way to sell access to video content would be to just add video content to your site, maybe through a Vimeo channel, and then to sell roles, which when you go and add a product with Commerce License role, you just choose a role that you want, call it super member or something, and then all the super members would then have access to those particular pieces of content. And the Commerce by Example, that's what Nick Vahalik goes over. He shows you how to do that in about 20 minutes, step by step, on a blog. Okay, so going back to the presentation, we're basically at an end. We have one more slide, if it'll go next for me. This is all of the pieces to the puzzle that the Drupal hero needs to know to do all of those requirements, which sound kind of complicated and worrisome, but really, in the end, it's just knowing that Commerce License 1 is going to enable all these various capabilities: selling files, selling access, selling metered billing, prorated billing. Hopefully we've sparked a little bit of ideas so that you can start thinking about ways you can use Drupal to actually make money, because that to me is the holy grail of the internet. Everything needs to be making money so that it can stay online. Yeah?
The Commerce License node, was that the content creation you were talking about?
Yes, Commerce License node. It's in dev right now, but it was.
Instead of,
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Doable, you probably just have to create a new plugin for the Commerce License module. And so the API for that's all documents. We used it, for example, to provision Zendesk tickets for a time. And you could just plug in any new type of license type you need.
So one of the things that is fantastic about Drupal, is fantastic about Commerce, and just the community in general is we like to create things that interconnect. And something Andy went over in the last session was all of the rules that you can do in commerce, and Ryan's answer to the question of can organic groups use license role to sell access to groups? Yes, if you use rules and a little bit of custom configuration. There are some rules in here that are being generated from Commerce License, and so I just used it recently to sell PDFs for a website that my pastor does at church. It's store.equip2grow, and we use rules in 2 different ways to sell content, and it is to use. Yeah, it's not UUID, it's just UIP. There we go. So this store is running on platform. It's running the Commerce License that we were talking about, and you can go in here and you can download a PDF. And the idea behind this site is so that he can go planting churches, and he's selling the resources that he uses to plant churches. One of the ideas that I had was why set a price when someone might feel really generous? So he can actually set the price right here. You could say pay the guy $200, and really $2 go to like keeping this thing online, and $198 go to planting more churches, which is really cool. And the way you can do this is just with a pricing rule, just like Andy was talking about. That's how donation sites do here's 5 different kinds of donations and select a price. And on top of that, we're using rules also once you've completed checkout and you've downloaded the file, we set the order status to be completed so that we know it actually happened. So rules really does give you complete control over your store, and Commerce License and everything else just kind of works together without necessarily needing to know about each other. Any other questions? If not, you can come up here and ask me, so you don't have to ask it in front of everybody else. And so we'll go ahead and end because it's like 120 degrees in here. So thanks a lot.